Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's meditation session. It's such a pleasure to share the insight into the mind together, across the space and time. Thank you for being here tonight, at your home, at your place, anywhere, to explore the mind together. To understand all kinds of chaos we are going through. This is a meditation session, so we meditate. But, meditation is beyond the form. But it always has a form to use, to follow. But to understand what is meditation, we need to go beyond any form, to understand the essence of it. The essence is the nature of the mind. All kinds of activities of neurons reacting to the environment outwardly and inwardly. It's easy for people to get trapped by how to meditate in the hope of finding a form to stay to or follow. Well, for all these kind of entertainment and activities, which is still called meditation, we need to understand what is meditation. It equally means we need to understand the life. What is life about? As everyone is becoming older, which is seen to be inevitable, right? Due to this biological change, also the environment, whatever. At some point, everyone at some point will encounter this question: how to live a life? Where is my life? Why am I confused about life? Who am I? Actually, the confusion not comes when people ask these questions, but the confusion comes when began to realize the self. This is, through years of life, years of education, cultural influence, whatever. When we are drawn to this concept of the self, the confusion starts. For some people, this confusion might be lifetime. But to clear the confusion of life, we need to get out of where we get drawn into. That's the self, right? To deeply understand the self and work out of it then there's a possibility to end the confusion. To meditate, we understand what is meditation. We deny, we refuse. I think this is not a very good words to use. We negate the form, all kinds of forms. But it does not mean that we refuse the form. The very way to understand the essence of meditation is to negate all kinds of forms. But when we understand what is meditation, any form can make sense to me, to you, to everyone. Then there's no point refusing the form, right? Just like we are going to do now. Let's keep 3 minutes in silence form. But as long as one understands what is meditation, this form must make sense to him or her. I hope now this form also makes sense to you. During these 3 minutes, we can simply focus on the sensation of the body, the breath, or just simply notice how many moments of the day we were not present. No contamination, no judgment, just notice it. Then let's come back to the discussion after this silence. What is honesty? People think honesty is a virtue. It's a virtue everyone should have. People think honesty means we need to speak what we feel, what we want, without any disguise. This concept sounds intriguing. We are so good at thinking, at all levels of thinking. Conceptualize a lot of things, including honesty. Just a moment ago, we just talked about actually the concept of honesty. Is honesty an idea or a different quality that we need to feel it deep down the mind? If the honesty is an idea, like most people are thinking about it in that way, in the domain of thoughts, honesty is empty, is meaningless. What is honesty? This is very questioning. Leads us to look at the mind a little deeper, not by fragments, because thoughts are always fragments. When we are thinking about it, using our thoughts, which limit what we know, these fragments couldn't help us to understand what is honesty until we can grasp the totality of the mind, which is beyond any division, separation. Right or wrong, good or bad, are all examples of this kind of division. Before we really inquire into the definition or the meaning of honesty, let's look at this simple question. For most of the people, are they really honest with themselves or not? Are we able to see ourselves as who we are without any knowledge, labels, identities, positions, any kind of ideologies? Can we really look at ourselves in that way? If not, there's no space to talk about honesty further. Because in that situation, it is rather hypocritical to talk about that, right? At the same time, we are not honest with ourselves. At the same time, we are talking about honesty. This scenario happens time and time again, right? Across the globe. From all kinds of politics, all kinds of elite, the elite levels, whatever. So before we talking about honesty, we need to solve this hypocritical stuff first. Are we really able to be honest with ourselves? To see ourselves as who we are? Without any lens, through the lens of knowledge, experience, past, position, wealth, and so on. For most people, it is very hard. People just take refuge in all kinds of ideas, images, thoughts to escape, to avoid facing themselves. Over the past 2,000 years, as the human being, has created all kinds of escapes to avoid facing ourselves. If we can't overcome being honest with ourselves, this is a very big step. There's no possibility to first talk about honesty, which is becoming an idea, a virtue, of something external, not internal. And this is all about meditation, right? The essence of meditation, we can also say, is to be honest with ourselves. Actually, being honest is one of the most simple stuff we could do ever as human beings. Just to see things as they are. But now it's becoming one of the most difficult things people can do. When people spend most of their life in all kinds of illusions, thoughts, has formed this strong habit of interpreting, seeing things through the knowledge, the past, all kinds of thoughts. We have complicated things to such a level. And being simple is one of the most luxurious thing for us, for people. Being simple. Just see ourselves as who we are, without any this kind of mental garbage, all kinds of nonsense, all kinds of chattering on the mind. If we are honest with ourselves, this very way to be honest transforms the meaning of honesty immediately. If we are not honest with ourselves, as most people actually are, look at this world. All kinds of dishonesty, right? All kinds of cheating, all kinds of mutual exploration, all kinds of nasty things are happening on each everyone. And everyone is being dishonest. And everyone is talking about being honest. Being honest and being dishonest are both dishonesty, right? When people are not able to face themselves frankly. To meditate is to be honest with yourself. Not to justify something, not to condemn something. No. You don't say, oh, it's good, no, nothing about that. Just see yourself as who you are. I guess for all the audience, for each of us, you may have found it that it is so difficult to be honest. It's so easy to tend to all kinds of theories, ideas, reasons to justify or condemn something. The very way to see ourselves through all kinds of knowledge, past, and so on. Which means that we always live in thoughts, and we use thoughts to project something more. The very way to live in the thoughts is the distortion to the mind. Of course, you may notice that when we are in thoughts, we've also done a lot of things crazy in all kinds of ways. And this crazy stuff are mere the reaction to thoughts. They are reactions. They are not actions. Actions only come from intelligence when one understands the self truly. But reaction comes from thoughts. From all kinds of mental images in the head. When someone criticizes you or hurt you, what will be your reaction? I think you can imagine that because you have a lot of experience of life. Everyone has abundant life experience, right? So a life fraught with thoughts is a life fraught with reactions. Which mask all the actions possible. Action only comes when one is not in thoughts, when one sees things as they are. Just like you see a snake and you run immediately, or you pretend to die, if that helps. Because you see the danger and you take actions. Because when you see a snake, you just see a snake. Let's nuke those mental images in between. You see danger and you take actions. But when one's in thoughts creates illusions, and one has the reaction to the thoughts. Of course, one also take actions, but it's reactions, not actions. This reaction can be on many levels. Look at all kinds of mental challenges people are going through. Are they not the reactions to thoughts? For example, fear. At this moment, we are exploring the mind together. Do you feel fear? Are you afraid of something? Probably not. Because when we are now talking about this mind stuff, everyone is present. But when you think about something, something can make you anxious, worried, which are all kinds of forms of fear, right? Have you ever noticed that fear only arises from thoughts, and only thoughts can breed fears? The psychological fear, right? When people are living in fear, this kind of reactions to thoughts in all kinds of ways. To avoid fear, that's most people's strategy, right? To escape the fear. To find another thought to be attached to in the hope of escaping from the fear. People are so cunning, I guess you know that, in doing this. So the very way to run away from the fear creates the fundamental level of the dishonesty. Look at how many things in your life you have done. It's always fear, very subtle forms. Probably someone might have never think about that or examine it carefully. But if you just look at it now, not being trapped by the verse, by the all kinds of mental images again, we just look at the fear totally. You may find that the simple way, the very way to run away from fear is the foundation of all kinds of dishonesty. But as long as we understand what is fear, not fear from some very specific things. Many things can give you fear because many thoughts from that things give you the fear. There's only one fear, is it? No matter which thoughts, the content of the thoughts, which must be very diverse. But they are all thoughts, right? There's only one fear. So when you understand this totality of the fear, the fear stops immediately. Oh yeah, I was in thoughts again yesterday, and I was reacting to thoughts, which brought me some anxiety and worry. This, to notice this. The fear stops. When we face the fear in this way, face the fear totally. Totally means realize the fear, how the fear is generated. But if we could not face the fear totally, we face the fear fragmentedly, which means that we still use thoughts to talk about fear, which means escape, right? We tend to use other ideas, try to justify the fear. We use the word courage to justify the fear. Oh, we need to have courage. These all kinds of subtle escapes. But if we just look at the fear without any verse interpretations, the fear stops. Then there's a possibility that we can be honest with ourselves. So now it's time for us to meditate. Breath meditation. As we said before, if one understands what is meditation, any form makes sense to one. And in this meditation, breath meditation, let's focus on the sensation of it. Notice the thoughts without any judgment, and always come back to breath, time and time again. Let's quieten the mind first before we continue the exploration. Now, let's follow the audio guide to meditate about 10 minutes. Now, let's take a 10-minute meditation. Start by taking a moment to find a comfortable position to sit in a posture that you feel relaxed and get alert. Let hands rest on your knees or laps. Let the eyes close gently. Soften your forehead. Act a soft smile in the corner of your lips. Breathe naturally. As you breathe in, be aware that you are breathing in. Feel the sensation of breathing in. The region can be the nostrils, can be the belly, can be anywhere. Focus on the part you feel most. As you breathe out, be aware that you are breathing out. Feel the sensation of breathing out. The region can be the nostrils, can be the belly, can be anywhere. Focus on the part you feel most. Fix your attention on the breath. Let go of any thought, words, images. This moment, nothing is more important than breath. While you are listening to the bell, check where your attention is. If it wasn't on the breath, after the bell, gently invite your attention back to the breath and sustain your attention on the breath. Slowly bring your awareness back to this room. Feel into your body. Wiggle your fingers and toes. When you are ready, open your eyes. You may find that how challenging it can be to focus on the breath, to feel the sensation of breath without being disturbed by thoughts, to see how the whole day has influenced the mind. Let's just observe it. Observe the thoughts, to notice it. But the language is always misleading. Before the session, the past 10 minutes, we talked about fear. To see the fear totally. Here, the same, to see the thoughts totally. To observe the thoughts totally. How? When we see the fear totally, who is the observer? Who is the observed? When we see the fear totally, it means that there's no division. But if I say the observer is me, to watch the fear, which is another part of the mind, then there's division between me and fear, right? It seems that me and fear are two different things. But who is me? Who am I? Am I not the combinations of all kinds of the past experience, mental images, knowledge, like the position, age, gender, name, fame, wealth, all kinds of personal mental images, nationalism, country where I come from, language, culture, whatever. So, the me is just some kind of concept, the combination, the consequence of all kinds of thoughts in the past. So, the me is part of mind, is it? Fear, we have just discussed. Fear is the reaction to thoughts. When you observe the thoughts, when you see the reaction to the thoughts, which is the fear, this part is also the mind. So the question is, am I not the fear? So when you deeply feel that you are the fear, then the very way to observe the fear is total. There's no division. The fear observes the fear. And in that moment, you don't seek any solution to it. You don't seek any other ideas, concepts to avoid it. When you see the fear is you are the fear. When you see this totally, the fear stops. You stop seeking when you realize you are the fear. When you don't realize it, you still think that you can still find something to cure fear, to get rid of it, because you thought fear is not part of you. Then all kinds of seeking, right? But when we realize that fear is me, I am the fear, the very way to understand this ends the fear without any seeking. Because you are the fear, what are you seeking for? So, seeing the fear totally means that observe the fear without being an observer. It also means that we need to end this concept of the self, which is the only source of all kinds of mental conflicts and challenges. And this is the foundation of honesty. There's no need to define any virtue, which is only concept. But if we can be honest with ourselves, see ourselves as who we are, when we are not dominated by the concept of the self, in that very moment, to see this totality, that's the honesty. And the harmony of the society, the peace and joy, it all grows out of this foundation, the fundamental level of honesty. When we see the self, when we end the self, when we really understand the totality of the mind. So that's why we meditate. In each session, we talk about what is meditation. But it is really up to you to feel it, not just imagine it from what I said, which is another thought, another illusion. It's very difficult, and you know it is impossible to convey this until you feel it yourself by observing yourself totally. To see all kinds of influences on you from everything around you. even the influence from what I said on you. To be able to see ourselves clearly, one has to walk out the thought to feel the life. In meditation, we learn how to observe. Observe means that to observe something, the mind, without being an observer. To observe without a mental image. That observance is the most easy and the most difficult thing for all of us. That's the content of today's meditation session. And if you have any questions or want to say, today we have only used the YouTube to stream the session, so you can just type in the chat box on YouTube if you have any words to share, or it is up to you, each of us, to explore the mind. If you simply listen to what I said, you actually create another authority for you, which actually ruins the exploration of the mind, because the exploration is always independent by yourself, without any psychological authority, which is only a concept, leads to all kinds of fear. You know that, I guess, right? Across the society, this kind of authority only brings the intimidation. So, to meditate is to end all kinds of psychological authority, to look at yourself without any knowledge, because knowledge is also an authority. Your past experience, even yesterday's idea, is also the authority. To live at present means to live without any psychological authority. To live without fear. That's the meaning of being present. And also that's our purpose, if there's one, to meditate. To live a life without any distortion. Because the distortion only comes from thoughts. Great. Thank you for everyone being here tonight. Exploring the mind together. And by the end of the session, the audio will be published on podcast later, so you can find it from Apple, Google, and Spotify, and all kinds of platforms, if you are interested in listening to it or sharing it with more people. And thank you for everyone again tonight for this very unique time and space. Oh, thank you, Martin, to share your message in the chat box, and also thank you for spending time with yourself to look at the mind. And I hope everyone stay peace and calm for the coming summertime in August enjoy each day. This year can be special, but every year is special. Every day is special. So I hope you and me keep doing this, looking at the mind, be present, live freely, without any distortion. And hopefully we can see each other in the future sessions. And then perhaps in a couple of weeks, we can meet again, face to face, on location, hopefully. Great. Thank you, everyone. Take care.